You ever wondered about the early life of Jimmy Carter? Come with us on this very interesting visit as we explore the National Historical Park that reveals the roots of his character and the land that shaped him. It's a unique glimpse into the life and legacy of this remarkable American. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the journey. Welcome to Plains, Georgia, a charming small town with a big heart and a rich history. This is not going to be a political video, but instead a history lesson on President Jimmy Carter. Plains is a place where Southern hospitality meets fascinating stories of resilience and leadership. From the quaint downtown streets lined with historic buildings to the iconic peanut monument that celebrates the town's agricultural roots. Plains offers a unique blend of nostalgia and inspiration. Whether you're here to explore President Carter's legacy, enjoy a slice of authentic peanut butter pie, or soak in the serene countryside, Plains promises an unforgettable journey into the soul of small-town America. Our journey begins at Plains High School, a cornerstone of history and a gateway to understanding the life and legacy of President Jimmy Carter. This beautifully preserved 1921 school building, now a museum and visitor center, offers a glimpse into Carter's formative years, where his values of hard work, education, and service took root. As you walk through its halls, you'll find fascinating exhibits, including classrooms restored to their original charm, and personal artifacts that tell the story of Carter's journey, from a small-town student to a global leader. It's more than a school. It's a living testament of the power of education and community in shaping greatness. That's a picture of the house that he's currently living in right here in Plains. Julia L. Coleman, affectionately known as Miss Julia, was a trailblazing educator and one of Georgia's first female school superintendents. Born in Nacogdoches, Texas, and raised in Plains, Georgia, she overcame physical challenges, including visual impairment, to become a beloved teacher, principal, and later superintendent of Plains High School. Under her leadership, the school was named a model institution in Georgia, pioneering innovative programs that influenced state education. Beyond the classroom, she championed initiatives like the school lunch program and beautification projects. Honored nationally, including by Eleanor Roosevelt, her legacy lives on, inspiring generations and even shaping the values of her former student, President Jimmy Carter. And for any young kids that are watching this, here we have an old-timey computer. Sadly, I might have experienced this a time or two during my school days. This room highlights the stark contrast between Plains High School and Ward's Chapel Church School, reflecting the realities of segregation in the early 20th century education. Plains High School, with its well-equipped classrooms and innovative programs, served as a model institution under the leadership of educators like Julia Coleman. In contrast, Ward's Chapel Church School, attended by African American children, operated with limited resources, often relying on hand-me-down materials and community support to educate its students. Despite these disparities, both schools were vital to their communities, shaping the lives of their students and fostering resilience and determination in the face of systemic inequality. Graduation day at Plains High School was a momentous occasion, brimming with excitement, pride, and a touch of small-town charm. The auditorium would fill with families and friends, dressed in their Sunday best, eager to celebrate the accomplishments of their graduates. The ceremony, steeped in tradition, featured heartfelt speeches from teachers and students, often reflecting on the values of hard work, community, and ambition to define the Plains experience. The graduates, donning their caps and gowns, would walk across the stage to receive their diplomas, each step symbolizing the culmination of years of dedication and the promise of bright futures ahead. It wasn't just a celebration of academic achievement, it was a community event uniting the town in a shared hope for the next generation's success. Step into a classroom in 1941 and you'll find a scene that feels like stepping back in time. Rows of sturdy wooden desks, each with a small inkwell carved into the top, are neatly arranged, waiting for students to dip their pens and practice their cursive writing. The blackboard at the front of the room is the focal point, covered in chalky lessons of arithmetic, geography, and grammar. There are no computers or digital screens here, just books, pencils, and the hum of eager minds. At Plains High School, students graduated after completing the 11th grade, as the 12th grade had yet to be added to the curriculum. This included Jimmy Carter, who, like his peers, crossed the stage as an 11th grade graduate, ready to take on the world, armed with the lessons and values instilled within these very walls. The audio buttons did not seem to work in this room today. Lockers have changed a little bit since those days. This room is a window into the remarkable global legacy of the Carter Center, showcasing its groundbreaking work in promoting peace, advancing human rights, and eradicating diseases worldwide. Thoughtfully arranged displays highlight the center's key initiatives, from combating guinea worm disease to ensuring fair elections in emerging democracies. Maps, photographs, and interactive exhibits bring to life the profound impact of President Carter's vision for a more just and compassionate world. The room's layout invites visitors to reflect on the interconnectedness of humanity, emphasizing the importance of global outreach and collaboration, principles that Carter championed throughout his presidency and beyond. It's a space that inspires action, reminding us of the power of service to make a difference. At any time in the video, if you need to, just pause so you can read the placards. The next stop on our trip is going to be the Smiling Peanut. The Smiling Peanut became an unexpected yet unforgettable icon of hope and relatability. Nestled in the heart of Carter's campaign headquarters, this oversized, grinning peanut sculpture embodied the down-to-earth charm and hard-working ethos of the peanut farmer turned politician. Towering over visitors with its wide, whimsical grin, this smiling peanut served as both a nod to Carter's agricultural roots and a playful reminder that politics didn't have to be all seriousness. It became a magnet for reporters, supporters, and curious onlookers alike. Its cheerful demeanor cutting through the noise of a tense election season. For many, the Smiling Peanut wasn't just a mascot, it was a symbol of optimism, proving that even a humble peanut could inspire a nation to believe in fresh beginnings. It has been named one of the top 50 roadside attractions in America. After Jimmy Carter's political career concluded, he and Rosalynn returned here to Plains, where they embraced a life of simplicity and service. Far from the grandeur of Washington, the former president found profound purpose in teaching Sunday school at Maranatha Baptist Church, just a stone's throw away from their modest home. Every week, Carter would stand before a packed congregation, weaving together scripture, personal anecdotes, and reflections on global issues with a humility that resonated deeply with attendees. People from all over the world flocked to the small-town church, eager to witness the unique blend of faith and wisdom he shared. For Carter, these lessons were more than a routine. They were a way to continue his lifelong commitment to making the world a better place, one heart at a time, alongside Rosalynn, who remained his steadfast partner in faith and service. Our next stop is the Lillian G. Carter Health and Rehabilitation Center, a place steeped in history and brimming with an extraordinary story. Picture this: Lillian Carter, a devoted nurse and mother-to-be, lived just a stone's throw away from the hospital. One fateful day, she was urgently called to assist with a medical procedure. Despite feeling unwell, her unwavering sense of duty prevailed when the doctor reminded her that her first responsibility was as a nurse. Resolute, she made her way to the hospital and carried out her duties with the utmost care. But as the procedure concluded, her colleagues noticed her discomfort. In a twist of fate, they ushered her into a nearby room where they helped her deliver her baby. That baby, born amidst the bustling halls of care and compassion, was none other than Jimmy Carter, the first U.S. president to be born in a hospital. This humble building holds the legacy of a moment where history and humanity intertwined. Step into the storied train depot, a humble building that became the unexpected heartbeat of Jimmy Carter's presidential campaign. In truth, the depot wasn't chosen for its grandeur or strategic location. It was simply the only available building in Plains with a bathroom. Yet, from this unassuming space, history unfolded. Once a bustling hub for trains crisscrossing Georgia, the depot transformed into a vibrant campaign headquarters, alive with the buzz of typewriters, the ring of telephones, and the passionate chatter of volunteers who believed in a peanut farmer's vision for America. Its modest walls witnessed the birth of grassroots strategies and heartfelt connections that captured the imagination of a nation. What began as a practical choice became the epicenter of a movement, proving that even the simplest places can be the launchpad for extraordinary dreams. From here, Carter's journey to the White House took root, reminding us that greatness often grows in the most unassuming of places. Nestled in the heart of Plains, the Plains United Methodist Church stands as a timeless witness to love, faith, and history. Its simple brick facade bellies the profound stories it holds, none more enchanting than the one that unfolded on a warm summer day, July 7, 1946. Within these sacred walls, a young Jimmy Carter, fresh from his time in the U.S. Naval Academy, stood beside Rosalynn Smith, the love of his life, as they exchanged vows that would anchor a partnership spanning decades. The church pews, filled with family and friends, bore witness to a union that would weather the tides of history and carry them from the quiet streets of Plains to the global stage. This cherished church is more than a place of worship. It is the cradle of a love story that began in a small Georgia town and grew to touch the hearts of millions around the world. A short walk down the road from here, the Carter home and garden property exudes a tranquil charm, reflecting the simplicity and values that define the lives of former President Jimmy Carter and his late wife Rosalynn. This modest ranch-style house is surrounded by flourishing gardens, lovingly tended over the years. While the property is off-limits to the public, visitors can view the beautiful gardens from a designated viewing point nearby. From this vantage, only a tiny portion of the house's roof is visible, preserving the privacy of the iconic leader who still resides there today. Step back in time to the rustic charm of the 1930s at Jimmy Carter's Boyhood farm, a living snapshot of rural Georgia life during the Great Depression. Nestled just outside Plains, this historic site offers a glimpse into the formative years of the 39th President of the United States. Here, young Jimmy Carter learned the values of hard work, perseverance, and community while tending crops, feeding livestock, and navigating the challenges of a farm powered by mule and muscle. The farm remains preserved as part of the Jimmy Carter National Historical Park, allowing visitors to walk the same grounds that shaped the future leader's character and worldview, offering an authentic taste of the era that forged a president. Jimmy Carter's Boyhood home offers a vivid glimpse into the formative years of the 39th president. This modest farmhouse, surrounded by fields and shaded by tall pecan trees, was a hub of activity where young Jimmy learned the values of hard work and responsibility. Initially, without the conveniences of electricity or running water, life on the farm demanded resilience and ingenuity. Carter spent his days feeding animals, hauling water, and helping his father in the peanut fields, experiences that deeply shaped his character. Today, the home stands as a preserved testament to the simplicity and challenges of rural life during the Great Depression, a place where the seeds of leadership and integrity were sown.
before we had electricity in our home, one of our major treasures was a battery-operated radio that was placed in the living room. And we would all sit and watch the radio while we listened to the exciting programs of a very limited nature. Daddy was very stingy about running the battery down, so our time was limited. Most of our listening was in the evening, and of course sometimes on the weekends as well when we were not working. We really enjoyed programs like Little Orphan Annie and Amos and Andy and Phil McGee and Molly.
Well, I must say, McGee, she's here.
Usually we all watched and listened to the radio at the same time, but I had a special interest in Greg Miller's music, which came on, unfortunately, quite late at night, like 8 o'clock. And Daddy would let me stay up after the other friends went to bed. I would lie in front of the fireplace, we had a clock on the living room. And when 8 o'clock came, I would turn on the radio and listen to Ben Miller for 15 minutes. One of my most vivid memories about the radio was when there was a heavyweight boxing match between Joe Louis, who was black, and Max Schmeling, a white German.
Here is the biggest show on earth. Joe Louis, the world's heavyweight champion, versus Max Schmeling, Germany's contender.
Weighing 198 3/4, wearing black trunks, the famous Detroit Brown Bowner, world's heavyweight champion, Joe Louis.
This was a rematch, and it was filled with heavy racial overtones, I guess all over the world, but particularly in the Deep South. As the time for the match approached, our black neighbors, about 30 or 40 of them, asked my father if they could listen to the radio. Daddy approved, of course. And in the living room on the windowsill, he put the radio so that you could hear it both in the house and outside under the mulberry tree. A large crowd assembled out there. In the first round, Joe Louis almost killed Max Schmeling.
5, 6, 7, 8. The men are in the ring. The fight is over. On a technical knockout, Max Schmeling is beaten in 1 round. The first time that a world...
Our neighbors, observing the southern proprieties, didn't make a sound. They very carefully walked out of the yard, crossed the railroad, went to a distant house. They celebrated until wee hours of the morning. We had a store, what we call a commissary on the farm, which was quite common in rural communities because they provided the basic necessities that had to be bought by the workers and by our families as well. What happened usually was that the purchases were on credit and payments for the different items were made on payday or sometimes even at the end of the season when the crops were harvested. The stores were convenient for 3 reasons. One, they were close by, and most of the transportation was on foot. Secondly, the landowner, the larger ones, owned the store and wanted to make a profit on items sold. And third, the people who lived on the farm or nearby quite often had no credit rating in town, whereas the landowner that owned the store would know them, and if they wanted to buy a pair of shoes or a shirt or some tobacco, they didn't have to worry about credit because they had ready credit. Since the landowner knew them well, and since the landowner knew that when he paid them for their work, he could collect the bill. This store was not kept open all the time, but it was open all day Saturday, because that was the day for major purchases. That was the day when the workers were paid and when they paid off what they owed. The rest of the week, the store was closed except when somebody wanted to make any kind of purchase. Both we and they were out of the fields during meal times. So almost every time I ever sat down at a meal, someone knocked on the back door and wanted to make a purchase from the store, My daddy would throw the keys across the table to me. I would get up and miss part of the meal, walk out to the store, unlock it, sell 5 cents worth of chewing tobacco or a bottle of castor oil or 2 pounds of sugar, make a ticket showing that the person had bought something on credit, lock the store back up, and go back to our meal. I hardly ever remember going through an entire meal without having to be interrupted to go to the store and open it to make a sale. In addition to my mother and father, there were a few people that shaped my life. Two of them were Jack and Rachel Clark, who lived in this house. When my mother and father would go off on vacation, I would stay with Jack and Rachel. And they provided me with information about the basic rudiments of life, the priorities that any human being should accrue, and also my entree into understanding how the sharecroppers and day laborers lived in a strictly segregated society. Much later, I wrote a poem about Rachel Clark, titled Rachel. My young life, shaped by those I loved, felt the gentle touch of Rachel Clark, our neighbor on the farm, whose husband, Jack, cared for the barn and did the kind of work that we boys most admired. He tended mules and rang the cast iron bell that brought an end to sleep and later told the time to rest. His wife was small and quiet. Her brown skin fixed her in our segregated world, yet Rachel had the aura of a queen that somehow wouldn't let the white folks ask for her to do the chores around their place, like cooking, ironing clothes, or tending babes. But she would volunteer with quiet grace anytime she learned the need was real. For miles around, the farming folks would know what Rachel did while working in the field. I'd pick 150 pounds or so of cotton if I never stopped to rest. No man could do much more. But Rachel Clark could pick near twice as much as second best. At sundown, we would tie what we had got in burlap sheets and watch the foreman weigh, see for ourselves that Rachel had the most, and if she had topped her own best mark that day. She'd put a lot more peanuts on the stacks, hoe more weeds, shuck more corn. No one, in fact, could equal anything she did. These kinds of deeds that may seem small to some were big events for us, in which we all competed as our farm life would allow. When work was done, or when a heavy rain made the fields too wet to hoe or plow, and open cotton bolls too damp to pick, sometimes she'd smile at me and mention fish. Then she and I would leave the farm and walk 6 miles or so to reach a stream she knew. These journeys gave us ample time to talk, or rather, I would listen to her words, and she would think a while and then hold forth about God's holy way, how when we deal with nature, we are stewards of the earth. She'd say that blessings bring on debts to pay, describe the duties of a man and wife, and say the brave and strongest need not fight. She'd tell how praying gave her life a lift, and how it made her act and not just talk, like staying up all night with someone sick. It wasn't empty preaching like in church. Sometimes I wasn't glad to reach the creek. Our bait was crawfish, lizards, crickets, worms, or whatever she would recommend for perch, catfish, and bass, which we called trout, misnamed by our European kin, or mine at least. I knew that Rachel's folks were brought themselves to be my people's slaves. The swamps and woodlands came alive for me. She taught the way that every person craves to learn. Our creels were empty flour sacks that kept our catch in water, fresh and safe, from water snakes and snapping turtles that would have left us bones instead of fish. Rachel used exactly 7 poles for reasons I could never figure out. I asked her, why not 8 or 6? She only smiled at me, then went ahead and caught, with luck or skill, 5 fish to 1 of mine. She made it seem a favor heading home if some of hers would wind up in my sack. Those might have been the best days I have known. With my folks gone, I'd stay with her and Jack. Newspapered walls all leaned. The sagging doors stayed open, letting flies and breezes in. I smelled the lye that cleaned the holy floors. Saving kerosene, we slept at dusk on lumpy corn shucks, not my feather bed. They always made me feel like I belonged and knew what things were better left unsaid. Although the food was plain and seldom changed, I never thought our big house down the road was better. They all knew I liked to be with Rachel Clark. I guess my feelings showed. In later years, I'd visit Rachel's home in public housing. Sometimes I'd find her on the village street, then still a queen, her apron sagging with a can of beer. She'd laugh about what good times there had been and tell me what she thought I ought to do in Washington, where I was working then.
Our journey concludes at the childhood home of Rosalynn Carter, where an extraordinary love story began, one that would span nearly a century. When Rosalynn's mother was expecting, she turned to her neighbor, a nurse, for help with the delivery. That neighbor, Lillian Carter, gladly assisted, bringing Rosalynn into the world. Little did anyone know that Lillian's curious young son, Jimmy, would soon sneak over and peer into the crib of the newborn baby girl next door. That baby would one day become his wife, partner, and first lady. Then a story of neighbors. It's the tale of a bond that began before they could even speak. A love that truly lasted a lifetime. We truly hope you've enjoyed this journey with us. If you did, we'd love for you to like this video and subscribe to our channel. By joining us, you'll never miss an opportunity to explore more incredible adventures together. Come along and let's experience the freedom of discovery with us out here on Liberty.